Oh, I see. You sent the request, but I had to do it again.
This meeting is being recorded. By
Yes.
staying in this meeting, your consent. Got it. So it's recording? Oh, there it is. Yeah, now I see it.
So anything you say can and will be used against me.
Keep my language clean.
Nah, don't do that. So, yeah, it's a lot. And I've worked
Yeah.
for about 3.5 weeks. I have a friend who's a very good conductor, and he was the other person that wrote for me. And for some reason, he just decided he was going to appoint himself the person to get me in line. So he was just really on me at every moment. And every time I would think it was looking pretty good, he'd be like, good, okay. And he'd give me a list like that. I'd be like, okay. So well, it's only been what, three sessions we have. And the pianist is, you saw some of the sessions or no? And it's much different now from then.
Yeah, I mean the one that I was able to take a look at was the Brahms, the
Hmm.
second movement. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, there's obviously lots to talk about. I mean, I think the most important thing about that I noticed just as a um, kind of a thing to be thinking about, you, the conducting gesture itself is fluid and it's elegant, it's clear.
And it
It's
wears out after about 5 seconds,
it
right?
it doesn't connect with what's happening in the orchestra.
Yeah.
Like
I think you'll I
I
think
mean,
you'll find it very different now.
good. I mean,
I don't.
one of the things that I
Go ahead.
noticed the most, and this is something he'll notice, because I actually just used the second movement yesterday, 2 days ago, for my conducting auditions. So if it was me, I know what I would be looking for. um, the contact with the important things that are happening in the score
Yes.
doesn't mean that it's a cueing issue. Sometimes it's just
Yes.
a look, like I know this is happening or that this is important. Uh,
Yes.
that the
I think I
focus,
tend to over cue because I feel like I have seen I have seen videos of me where I think, oh my God, it's just like I'm so boring. But I after that, I spent about 2.5, 3 hours marking up this score further and analyzing it further. So hopefully you will see I hear more.
yeah, I mean, it's little things like you tend, or at least whenever you recorded that,
Yep.
you were tending to kind of just stay with the melody, and that's
Right.
okay, except there's a lot more going on than just that. And
I
he's going
think
to want to,
I hear all that. But the problem is, and I was talking about this with Noelle today, because I had this big catharsis and I was trying to change everything because I feel like that I need to go from this level to the next level, which means being able to embody those things that I'm hearing, whether it is like the for example, in this the bass movement, dum pa da dee da da dum pa
yeah,
da dee dum da dee da da dee, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to figure out how to translate yet into a physicality and how much to do it, because sometimes I do it and it's not much and it doesn't read at all.
Well, the question, yeah, I mean, the question is, is what you're doing too subtle? Does it not read? I mean, for just for instance, let me just ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
So when you get to the oboe solo,
Mm-hmm.
who are you conducting?
You're conducting the underpinning underneath.
But that's not what it looked like at all.
Yeah, but it probably
Because
didn't.
once you
Yeah.
get the
And that's also that's a bass.
because I would start I would go look at the violas
Well,
who have that
you mean the very first oboe? I'm sorry, you mean the very
yeah,
first oboe
the
solo?
first
Yeah.
oboe solo, yeah.
Yes, and there's that big dissonant note in the violas that has to hurt a little bit. It has to.
And then yeah, and so it's like having, you start the oboe and that's nice, but then you begin to attend, like, that's an important thing to connect with, like what the violas are doing there. Then,
I'm aware of it. I don't connect visually enough or
but you have to
physically
take the
enough to,
awareness, you have to take the awareness and make it physically manifest, so
yeah,
that it's clear that you're connecting with the elements that are in the orchestra that are doing
right,
something important.
right.
And that can mean that you change your focus, you look at them, and your gesture encompasses that lovely three, but it's also with a kind of a knowing to shaping their, I mean, they have that hairpin. And then this is really crucially important because so many people miss this. Right after that, there's a really, really, really important thing that occurs. And that's the second bassoon drops the octave in bar 20
Yep.
and has something like, and so this, it's also a kind of a sense of like an awareness. Maybe you don't have to cue it, you don't have to look at it. It's not a cue because they've already been playing, but
No, I
it's an idea
understand.
of a sense of like, am I listening for it? Am I even just, even just to look at them, just to look at them, like, yeah, I know what you're doing. And then here was the crucial, right here in this opening sequence, here's the really crucial thing. At 22,
Yes, the strings have that theme again.
who are you connecting with?
The strings,
Which strings?
the top string. Well, everybody that's playing they're all playing that
So
steel.
in an orchestral unison,
Yes,
what do we focus on?
lower voice. No,
Yes. Yes.
and I'm
Which
not doing that
means the basses.
because they're the ones that drive the whole thing. Yes,
So in that moment, you were like, look, you looked right at the first
and the
violins,
violins. Yeah,
and it's the basses that stupid thing that happens. I hate that. I can't turn this
sure.
this stupid thing happens. It's
You
really
got the
bad.
right answer. Ta-da!
Yeah, well, no, it's a thing like, when you put two thumbs up, that's sort of that crazy thing that confetti goes, and then there's another thing like you do this and confetti happens. There's something where you do this and the little thought bubble comes up, and it's a bit too much. Anyway, so the bottom line is at that moment when you have the oboe soaring up to the top there, you want to support that, but you want to look at the basses.
What's interesting is out of the many recordings that I've listened to, you can always tell, and now that you've mentioned it and said it that way, you can always tell as to whether they are hearing that lower and leading with that lower, because the sonority of the sound is completely different. And it only happens in a couple of recordings that it's really there.
It's crucially important from the standpoint of orchestral balance to make sure that whenever it happens, and it doesn't, maybe it's first violins divided, maybe it's first and seconds divided, maybe it's first and viola, whatever, anytime people are playing in quote unquote unison, but octava unison,
Mm-hmm.
whoever is the lower octave is the primary octave. And connecting with that and building the orchestral sonority from the primary octave makes everything above it sound better. But most people focus on the top, whatever the top octave is. And that actually is not going to build orchestral sonority. There's no foundation to it. Even just, based in acoustics, there's
Yeah.
there's no fundamental for the
Well, it's the same with the
octave.
choir.
It's exactly the same with the choir. You want to be building so that the acoustics are working for you. And that means that you have to be conscious of and sensitive to these moments. It's particularly important in any type of octava writing where you have multiple octaves. Like, for instance, the solo at the end, with the horn and the oboe and the violin.
Yes.
What does
Yes.
everyone always do?
Everyone conducts the first violin.
Yeah. And who's the primary octave?
The lower voice, of course. We
The
just went over
horn.
this.
The horn. But usually it's like people just turn to the, oh, it's a concertmaster solo. It's like, no, it's a 3 octave melody.
Yeah.
And the concertmaster happens to be the top of the 3 octave melody. But these kinds of ways of thinking, and anytime you can, in an audition situation, particularly in an audition situation, just even if you look so that the conductor who is evaluating, whoever's evaluating you, knows that that's something important. That's where my focus should be. That kind of thing can be, as you make it physically manifest, ultimately it kind of goes into your body, because the look, when you go suddenly, your gesture, instead of this and you're over here, your gesture goes to the, and you engage physically
Mm.
where things are occurring, or if it's that little viola thing, because there's a little separation. There's a dot on the quarter notes under the slur. So there's a
Yeah.
little articulation, and the connection with that shows that it's like, oh, well, they know the score. They know what's happening in the piece. The more you can show that, the the more whoever's evaluating it is going to say, and this is why I'm saying it doesn't have to be perfect what you're doing. You're applying to learn.
That's right.
And what you want to show them is, this is a person with ears that understands the score, that may not be able to always make it physically manifest in the most communicative way, but they're engaged in something more than just kind of conducting a nice 3 pattern or a
Right.
nice whatever pattern. So from an audition standpoint, the goal is, you want to know, at least in some major moments in the score, you want to know where your focus should be, and change your focus so that someone who's evaluating you knows that you know what you're doing. Because I'm sure and you've analyzed this, you've thought about it, you know what the important things are, but we don't see that.
Yeah, it's really, it's been a source of intense frustration for me because you know me and you
Yeah,
know I'm an excellent musician. So
yeah.
and then you turn the video on and you're like, well, where the hell is she?
So
Where is
my
that excellent musician? I mean, it's just, it almost feels as if I can't quite get, and then I'll go to explain something to somebody and I'll have the right gesture. It's like I put myself in a box somehow of I am conducting the piece rather
yeah
than really allowing myself to be okay with it. I don't know how that makes any
no, it
sense.
makes complete and perfect sense. I mean, I
I mean, there are
literally,
moments that it happens brilliantly with the choir because they are under my care and they need me to help them.
well, an orchestra, particularly on this level, they need you to help them too.
I
It's
know, I know,
not the
I
Boston
know.
Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah. If it
You
were,
know,
I wouldn't worry. I would just stand up there and start
well,
them
they would do
and,
their thing. Yeah. I
and
mean,
do my
yeah,
Bernstein.
you enjoy your life. Right. I mean, but I
Right?
mean,
Exactly.
they do need you. I
Yeah.
mean, an orchestra, a conservatory level orchestra may be able to have playing chops, but they very often are immature musically, and they're very often not schooled in things like phrasing, things like, how do you bring out the right orchestral balance? What are the things that are important in a score? I mean, those kinds of things, they're just learning. If you're lucky, they're learning. And so I think that the most effective thing you can do is to just try. I said something to somebody in the audition the other day, because they were doing something that I couldn't understand why they were beating it the way they were beating it. And I stopped them and I said, okay. I said, so sing me that phrase. Just sing it. And they sang it and made a physical gesture that manifested the phrasing. And I stopped them and I said, why did you not conduct like that? You just sang it and it was phrased and beautiful. And you gave a gesture that was perfectly clear with the phrasing and everything like that.
This happens to me. This is where I am. I'm at that little sticking point that I'm just holding on so hard. I don't know why.
So my
I
suggestion
think it's
is,
confidence. I think it's, feeling like I'm not worthy to do this and that I should just fucking give it up.
oh, okay, we're done with that.
Right, right,
Out the
right,
window, out the door, be gone.
right.
You
I mean,
know,
there's stuff in there, right? I mean, there's
so this my what I'm trying to say is, I think you're getting stuck in the mechanics of beating a pattern,
yes,
and you're not allowing yourself to react like the musician you are, and to
that's correct.
understand that
That rings true like boom.
and sometimes, honest, this is something I espouse very much to my students. Sometimes music doesn't want to be in a pattern. Music wants a gesture that underlines what the music is. It doesn't necessarily give a shit whether you're in 3 or in 4 or in 12 or whatever. And so if you're caught up in pattern and you're caught up in that as the be all and end all of what you're doing, it'll be organized, it'll be fine, but it'll be completely disconnected from what the music is trying to do. So my suggestion is let go a bit. Let the musical person who's there say something,
Yeah,
and don't worry so much about making a, certainly not in the, look, okay, again, Appalachian Spring mixed meter composition, okay, there's, yeah, you can't make a beating mistake, got it. But in a piece like this, you don't have to be in a pattern. In many instances, there are certain moments where, yes, it's helpful to be in a very clear pattern, like, there you have to be calm and clear, because it'll fall apart. It will
right.
absolutely fall apart if you try and quote unquote do anything. What you really need to do, though, is to allow yourself to just inhabit the music. And if the gesture gets a little wonky and quote not in pattern, who cares? It's showing the music. So I mean, for instance, you can go, after you do the I didn't go.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The music feels like it wants to be.
Right.
That you did well when you did the offbeat thing there. And then you go and you do your little thing. And there's other moments where that occurs. But it's just allowing yourself to not be in pattern when the music could be, when other things need to be expressed, and to not worry about that, because I think sometimes you get stuck in your pattern
Well, I
based
get terribly
world.
stuck. If I can ever inhabit that confidence and inhabit that just letting go of it, I think my body will learn what it feels like and I won't go back to it. But I think there's just going to be that big moment that I have to just keep moving toward it. I've been thinking, I said, I'm ready now. The beats all look good. They're all pretty. They're all in the right places. I mean, I'm talking about from the beginning of when I was studying. You know where one is because it doesn't go one or one. It's very even. I know it looks good. You helped with this. Now I need to just try and allow it to happen. It's hard. It's a big leap because it's more mental than it is intellectual.
Well, it's also yes, it is, but it's also more. It's about trusting that it'll work,
It's really hard. I know.
and
I
taking
know.
yourself, the pattern. The pattern is a crutch.
Yeah.
Clarity of pattern, to be honest, is the beginning of conducting. because
When I
that is,
had a seminar, I did the only time I ever did it, I did some piece that was completely out of pattern, and it was completely like I just went up there and just did it. And the clinician really hated it. And the orchestra loved it.
of course.
So I mean, of course, exactly, because it was music and not some stupid thing they had an agenda to teach. So I always say trying to learn conducting in summer programs is like being in the foster care system.
Yeah, and you're at the mercy of everyone's pet issues.
I know. And it's just, and they don't even know what they're doing half the time anyway. They
Well,
couldn't stand up here and yeah, no,
that's
they
that's
couldn't
another whole
conduct
problem.
a whole second movement beautifully either.
I'll give you a couple of other spots that you should think about in terms of places that you can change your focus effectively. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so when the big oboe solo comes in at B, you can connect with them. You don't have to give it to them. You kind of gave it to them like this.
Mm.
They know it's there.
Where is
Which
this? Which one?
B, the big
Oh,
long
yes. Okay.
at B. So you sort of
Yes.
gave it like, here's your solo. They know it's a solo. What you can do that's more connective in a way is that as you get to look at them and breathe and
Yes.
give them a gesture that invites them into the texture. Yes, yes, yes. As
I
opposed
was
to
told
something that
not to
goes,
breathe. There were so many instances I was told not to breathe by teachers. Don't breathe when you conduct. And I'm thinking, that's
not by
ridiculous.
me.
Even
You
string
know,
players breathe when they play, and they don't have
not
to
by
breathe.
me, because you know
No,
that that
never
is
by you. Never
I
by
and I
you.
and I this is, I love my dear friend Markan very much. I am violently in disagreement with this issue where he
Oh,
says don't breathe.
I
I'm
am too.
violently in disagreement.
Well, I'm a singer, so of course I would be.
But in any case, so bring them into the texture. Don't give them a cue. Just look at them. Then have an awareness that the first violins in that syncopation, it's not the issue so much of the syncopation. You may have to think a little click so that they have something to play off of, especially if it feels like the rhythm is a little weird. Very light. I wouldn't make a big deal out of it, but just and the arms still in the legato. Don't stop the beat, but just a little wrist click within the legato could be useful just to make sure. And once it gets going, you may not have to do it the whole time, as long as the
Right.
rhythm is going. But also be aware that the first violins in that syncopation are playing the motto. Da, da,
Yes.
da, da, da,
Yes. I'm
da.
aware. Hmm.
Good. So the connection with, while the oboe solo is doing its thing, that there's something important that's going on over here and connecting in. Okay, great. When the clarinet comes in, again, another one where you want to be looking at them,
Yes.
like connect for the entrance. But then the key moment that always screws up is coming off of the tie on that long note.
Yes.
They're almost
Yes.
always late, because what happens is they bloom their sound and they lose situational awareness of where they are. And what they need from us is the encouragement to come off of that and go click. And that's a bar you want to be a little more engaged in the pattern, because that's a dangerous bar.
Yeah.
Then be ready when the basses and the cellos come in on that pedal A flat. Look at them.
Yes. That's hard. That's really hard.
Look at them. Because when you have that, and it's, even if it's just like you're going go da 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 da, breathe, look at them. You don't have to cue them. You just
No, no,
breathe
no.
and look at them, so they know, yes, this is our entrance, because they haven't played for a while. And not that they can't count, but it's bringing them into the texture, so that suddenly, and
Isn't
then
it
they have this
also the
beautiful
same
bloom.
situation too? Isn't it also the same situation too, that they have that? Dee da 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 dee da da
Yes,
da da.
yes,
It's
because
exactly the
they're
same.
taking the clarinet thing. You want to make sure that they're off of that tie cleanly.
Yes.
So then you get down to stuff like the it's all at least for a bar and a half or so orchestral unison. Stay with the low end of the orchestra. In other words, lead from the low end of the orchestra.
Yes.
That sequence. Okay, then you got
Yes.
the big soaring melody. Okay, that's all fine. You want to make
This
sure
next business, I bet you, is hard to keep together.
before
Um,
C.
yeah, before, well, no, before C, because there's a hemiola, but also 51, 52, 53. That little dee da bum bum dee da 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 dee dee da 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 da.
Yeah, you have to
Is
go.
that
You have to go to the second beat and treat it like a sforzando piano. Okay, so that like what the winds have.
yeah.
So you give two, and then you go into the two is sharper. It's an arrival, but then immediately you're in the texture of the piano, but keep the
Dee
beat.
da dum.
Then you keep yes, then you keep the beat moving. If you just go like sforzando and stop, it'll fall apart. So you have to be thinking one and then lead from the bottom.
Yeah, and how about this idea? Because I don't, right before all that hemiola business, there's always feels like there should be a slight waiting. Dee da da yum ba dee ya dee yum ya da dum dee ya da dum dee ya da dum. Yes,
I think so. I mean,
yes or
I
no?
I do think you should have a little bit because it's not just
Right. It's a dump.
it's a little bit of expressive lean at the beginning of it. Each
Yes,
group
yes,
of
yes,
four
yes, yes.
sixteens. The only key is that they play to each other so it's seamless. If they go there's no
Oh,
hole.
yeah, no, they
They
do.
have to
Okay.
play full value. So dotty 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 and then this is again, this is a whole sequence here at C of beats they want to play off of. So it's
Yes.
oh da dee da oh da dee da dee da dee. Each group entering is entering on an offbeat.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you're connecting with the clicks that are necessary. So the bar before C, it's a click on two. At C, it's a click on one, and then a click on three.
Yeah.
And then once they kind of get moving, you don't have to be quite so clicky about it.
Okay.
Now, here's one other thing that will separate, shall we say, as they used to say, the men from the boys. What happens after C? There's a very crucial thing in the orchestration that occurs. Third bar and fourth bar of C.
Everything kind of stops really because you have that timpani roll that's from the beginning, and then
Mm-hmm.
you start the new motif again. So it's
As
almost as if it's truncated in this little.
it sort of sits in stasis for a moment, and then
Yes, yes, it's sort of a what do you call
the
it, a modular
yeah, yeah.
moment.
But
Yeah, I
here's
know what this is supposed to do. I just can't get
no
it
no no
out
no.
in
But
physics.
I'm actually going to give you something much more practical to think about.
Okay.
Has the timpani played a note yet in this movement?
No,
So maybe a little contact with the timpani as they enter will be helpful. Not that they
I have
can't
a note
dance.
two before C that I should look over to give him the furry eyeball while I'm
Just
busy.
just
Da,
just
da,
a
da, da.
glance. Yeah, just a
You're right.
glance to know. And there's one other
Okay. Stop.
pickup,
No.
pickup to the fourth bar of C.
Yes.
Trumpets. They
There's
come in on
nothing
that
happening.
pedal E.
What's that?
The trumpets come in on the pedal E, picking up to the fourth bar
Yes,
of
I have
fifth
that
bar
as
of C.
well. They haven't been in
That's
either. There's
that's
I
the
have that
first time
also right,
that's
that
the
they've
first time they play a note.
right. I have that.
So so but when you were doing it before, you didn't look at all anywhere about those instruments coming in and everything like that.
No, I didn't. And I'll tell you, I was so disoriented trying to get this all together with all of her wrong notes and trying to corral her into the right time. So yeah, I mean, no, but you're
But
right.
but I
And it's
but I will
tricky
tell
because there's
you,
so much going on there.
right.
And you're right. The timpani at the bottom of that page, the trumpet has 5 bars. The timpani has 4, and they come right after each other.
Yeah.
Brrr, 1, 2, boom. I
And
planned it.
and a conductor that is aware of that and has contact with that doesn't mean that you cue them, you just look at them.
Right.
Is somebody
I
that
planned it. It didn't work.
but
Okay.
that is a moment. I mean, I will I mean, like I said, I just used this movement in auditions. When I teach this piece, I make sure it's one of those things that it's like that really separates the men from the boys. Because if you're aware of that particular thing, and it's the first lesson for many people in the idea that if an instrument has not played for bars and bars and bars and bars, or particularly if it's the first entrance they make in a movement, know that and have contact with it. Sometimes you get a movement where they go merrily along and it's been going along for like 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, and then the tuba goes boop, one note. It's nice if the conductor knows that that note is there, or that note is supposed to be there, so that you can just have a little context so that everyone's confident going like, yep, here we are.
You probably don't know this, but a lot of my Curtis years there was a joke about the Gigi Mitchell-Velasco piccolo chair because I played piccolo on all the huge pieces. So I'm feeling you there.
So I mean, but here's a perfect example of it. And if somebody is evaluating you, they're going to be like, oh, they really know, because they're aware of that entrance. That is one of the great hidden entrances of all time. So
I
that one's
found
an
it. I
important
just
one.
didn't do anything about it.
So the key is incorporate that and do something about it.
It's written in here. I can show it
And
to
I'm
you.
sure, I'm sure. So I mean, I think those are kind of like for this piece, and some overall conceptual ideas. I think these are the most important things. And I think if you can find a way to, I don't I imagine the orchestra will be okay. I mean, workable, decent.
I
Um,
think they do it the same every year, the
yeah,
same
so I'm
piece.
so I'm sure they'll be fine, which means you can have a certain level of confidence that they're not at square one reading these pieces. So that means that you can afford to show, you know, clarity of pattern doesn't mean clarity of music. Clarity of music often takes care of clarity of pattern because we understand that, here's a pulse, and I don't need to have this pulse looking like this in order for it to be clear. Because if I'm showing the music, everyone knows where we are. So I just want to encourage you to try, and in those moments, where there's some interesting things happening, or where there's certain things happening in a phrasing or something like that, let your inner musician loose and don't worry so much about being in the perfect pattern. It's okay. you know I think you will be much better served by, you know the key for all of this is, do you need to have a clear pattern integrity as a basis? Absolutely. Because there are moments where you need to retreat into clear pattern integrity.
That's right. Yeah. And I see those
Right.
because
And so the question is, when it's moments that don't necessarily need that, and particularly moments when the music wants something else, go with the music. And that shows, because the most important thing you want to show him is not, a perfect pattern at all times. You want to show him, hey, I'm a serious musician here. And I know, and I'm bringing to bear my many years of work and you know performance as a musician. I'm bringing that to the table, and then he can look at that and go, oh, I can help mold that. I can help bring out the things that are necessary, like that. You're not at a stage where he would say, like, well, they can't, conduct their way out of a wet paper bag, so that's not going to be a problem. So he doesn't have to worry about the fact that he's going to have to do, a complete and total tech strip down. But he's
Yeah,
going
he
to
didn't
be,
know what, I think he didn't know what to expect when I first approached him because I sent him video. And so because the friend of mine is a little more remedial, but he's there working. He has a connection with him. And he said, oh, well, you better go to Madomic first and you better connect it with that. And I said, first of all, I don't have time or money to do all that.
right.
So I wrote to him and he said, oh, well, we can get together on a phone call. And he talked to me a bit. He looked at the videos and he said, one of the indications he said, well, he says, you're certainly not a novice. I give some exercises to people, but you're not a novice. So in other words, there was a certain understanding that I was not stupid.
Right. Well, and you're a seasoned musician. And that goes for a lot as a
Yeah.
conductor.
I
I
just got
mean,
to get out of my own goddamn way.
yeah, and not be so afraid to let the music step to the foreground. And there are moments where you're going to need a clarity of pattern. Absolutely, sure, no problem. But
Speaking
it's
of
also,
clarity pattern,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
the ending. I mean, how do you feel about the retard there as far as like I see some people not this is a thing. I think it's a little much to subdivide the whole thing. Da dee da da dee da da dee da da. I just subdivide the last ya da da ya dum bum bum. That's it.
If you even
Where do
need
you begin that decline?
I,
Last one, two, three, four, five, six, 5 bars.
my
All those
pre-
pitches.
my preference would not be to actually subdivide anything.
Yeah,
My
that's what I
preference
figured you would say. And
would
some
be
people do it all, some people do only
no.
one, some people do the last
You
bar.
have your right. You have your bum 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 lift, and the first violin is holding. I mean, I think it just, if you start going dum dum dum, but it that is not
Dies.
organic. It's not organic to me.
It's not organic. Yeah. We're
And
back
I
to that word. I
yeah,
love that word.
it is really important that it be, and it feel natural and organic.
Mm.
And if you insert a subdivision in a way that interrupts that process, I think it makes it obvious that you're manipulating
It's
something.
interesting that you say that because that's part of the process that keeps me locked in the pattern. Because if I'm conducting and I get a little bit frisky where I'm not in pattern, then I will want to do something and I think, well, maybe I should do something technically to make that happen. And then I'm like, oh my God, what do I do now? Rather than just allowing the organic process to unfold without worrying it too much.
Yeah, I mean, you always have to have a sense of that, whatever it is that you're doing, particularly when you go extra pattern, let's call it that, that you're able to know where you are.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, you have to still have what I lovingly
There are
refer to.
moments and you say, oh, but the music the pattern is over here, but the music wanted me to go to here, but now I'm here. In other words, I get
Yeah, you have to get used to the place if you're doing, like, okay, so where am I now having to do that? I'm
okay.
doing, I'm 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 doing, and it's like, oh, now I need this.
So in other words, it doesn't really matter that you sort of break that. Okay. Never mind. That's good.
Yeah, because
It's
the next,
confidence, David. It's confidence. It's confidence.
it's
It's what it
confidence.
is.
It's confidence,
It's
and it's
all what it is. That's all it is. I don't
and
have this problem when I stand in front of my group because they're my group.
right.
And I've taken them from sounding like shit to sounding like they sound now. And I love that. and I'm okay with it. I had some cellist play with me. And she goes, I just love you because you don't worry about what you look like. You go to where the music is. And I thought, she said, I hope you're not insulted by that remark. I said, are you kidding? That's the best compliment you can give any conductor. That's what any conductor wants.
Yeah,
But I do get my knickers in a twist when I start thinking I'm conducting a symphony. I know.
it's different.
Stupid.
It's no different, but I mean, but the whole industry is built up to make people think it is,
Of
and
course.
it's all built up to make everyone think like, oh my God, a symphonic conductor. It's like, oh, come on. I
When you
mean,
look at all these women that are up,
I, I mean,
you think to yourself, oh dear God.
I mean, and it's
But it's
just,
selling, it's selling, it's selling. It's
well,
like,
yeah. But anyway, I mean, I mean, in that movement, those were some of the things that I thought I could offer and help
so
clarify for
I have a
people.
question about the beginning for sure, the
Sure,
introduction.
sure.
Um, I'm trying to remember if I've ever played this piece. 2 and 4 I played, 3. I don't remember ever playing this. I mean, it is
Hmm?
definitely a wall of sound. It's
Oh
definitely
yeah.
a wall of sound happening from every direction with this pedal tone thing. So it's just this convergence of sound. I'm not exactly sure. You don't want to just focus on boom, 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 boom. You don't want to just focus on that, but then because you have the strings that are rising and then you have this that's happening. So there
My
is movement. Dee da 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 dim ba dee da da dim ba ya da da dum. Yes, but I don't know
I mean,
how you hold that. The sound to me, the whole opening should just sound like a wall of sound that is unrelenting. It's
I think the
and then
way,
mushroom cloud.
yeah, I mean, you've first of all, you can't conduct every element that's going on in any
Course.
piece.
So how do you hold space for people when you need? I think that's the best description, isn't it? You're holding space for them.
Yeah, and I would strongly suggest that what you lead in the foreground
Yes.
is the cellos.
Yes. But then again, this is also like this. Oh, well, yes,
No, if you're
because
going
that
like
is exactly what we were
ya
talking about.
dee dee da da dee da ya da da dee 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 da 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 dee da 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 dee da. They're still all playing in the violins, but you're leading from the correct octave, and you're also open
Yes.
to
Yes.
encompass the space for the winds to be doing. And I'm also not doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, da, da, following the shape of the line in terms of weighting the beats and knowing that the boom, 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 boom is going to
Well,
go
then,
on anyway. But what most people conduct is boom, boom, boom,
I
boom,
know.
which is ridiculous because that's not anything. It's the pulse. So if you conduct in an open way, so it's clear where 1, 2, and I would be lateral about it this way. 1, two, one, two, because it looks like a bow.
I started to say that. That was exactly what I started to say. That's what Ozawa did so well. He had this wonderful lateral
Yeah,
movement
and
all the time,
and and you encourage using the bow.
using the bow.
I mean, the God, I say this to my students all the time. Lateral, especially on something where you want sound. It needs to be this. So if you're giving the beat as like this, as opposed to
Do
then
you
you're
start it that
following.
way?
Yes, of course you can just give. I would just simply give and then stay in this singing
Lateral.
lateral singing idea all the way through the 9/8 bar, and
Yep.
then we go dee da da yum bum 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 boom 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 dum bum bum boom. But that makes the whole thing do this.
Well, they can't, if you're doing this, they can't not do this because
Yeah,
they can't
and
help it.
and they'll react to that.
Yeah.
They'll react to it.
So in this stretch of the adagio the introduction, yet again, another introduction, which is kind of bookends there. 4 and 1 are kind of bookends.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there's even
Yeah,
motivic relationships and
exactly. But this opening, how do you stretch this? So I guess you're just going laterally. Dee, da.
okay. So I'm going to share with you my pet theory about this movement, the introduction.
Okay.
And I take it for what it's worth, but I think Brahms was a classical romanticist, a romantic classicist, whatever you want to call it. He certainly was involved with a classical approach.
Mm.
In an introduction to an allegro in a classical symphony, there's almost always a proportional relationship from the slower beat to the allegro beat. There's a relationship of some kind.
Yes.
Okay. Let's not look at the very first bar. Let's actually go to the allegro itself. Actually, no, I'm going to take that back. We'll look at the going into B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'll explain how we get into B before, because it's not that the tempo, there is a natural accelerando through that previous.
Yes, yes.
There's a natural accelerando. Brahms would have expected it, even though
Right.
he never wrote it. He famously, when people like Joachim asked him to give him like what he should do in the Fourth Symphony, he was going to go conduct it somewhere. He's like, "Can I get, tell me what to do in the symphony? Where should I?" And Brahms famously said, "Well, I'll write it in pencil and a score and everything like that, but move forward here, pull back a little bit here, move forward," which is not what we expect of Brahms. We expect that Brahms, being very classically oriented, that's a kind of a Wagner-y idea.
Mm-hmm.
That the melos wants to move faster or slower, and that you go with what it wants. He actually espoused that, but in a kind of a middle way. Okay, not the classicist, don't move any tempo, it's all one and same tempo, and the Wagnerian, everything is manipulated and faster and slower. And he was somewhere in the middle about that, but he expected people to do what we would call tempo rubatos, all as according to what the music wanted. And he wrote it down for Joachim, and Joachim said, "This is the Fourth Symphony." He said, "Why didn't you put that in the score?" And he said, "Because if I put it in the score, everyone would exaggerate." He
Oh,
said,
it's interesting.
"I expect people to do it, but every musician, once they know the music, will know what to do."
Mm,
So I'm
mm,
not going to write it in. So he rarely wrote this kind of thing in the score.
mm.
Okay, that's one thing. All right. So
Yep.
at B, you conduct in 4, right?
Right.
Okay. So what's your basic tempo right here for this famous melody?
You mean
Yeah.
I don't have a, I should, I had 72, but I'm not sure that's quite right.
I, I,
Team, ba-dum,
okay, so you're that's about your pulse. Maybe. If that's the quarter note pulse, look at the famous tune. What's your tempo here? Are you in 4 or are you in 2?
That's the one you mean.
Yes.
Ba-dum,
So, what if I suggest to you that the which is a lovely adagio, the andante, becomes that the quarter becomes the half note. Now, just if you take that as an intellectual idea and suggestion, now go back to the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
So if the quarter note became the half note, what if we think of the idea of here's our what if it's
So the quarter half is still good from the beginning.
eighth becomes quarter, becomes half. And that gives you the idea of going one and. You already are thinking the eighth note. You don't conduct, I mean, you could conduct subdivided, but if you're thinking of this, the idea of, because you have to give one, two, okay, through this whole thing, and right, yeah, and then you're in your adagio, and then you have boom, bum, bum, thumb, bum, bum, boom, boom, boom. No accelerando until he says it, and then you go
Yeah.
boom, bum, thumb, 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 bum, 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 oompa, 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 oompa. Stop and. Okay, this all goes all the way through
Yep.
until you have the twa.
Yeah.
Which everyone always plays too fast.
Da, ba, da, da,
Right, which
dee.
everyone, that's fine, great. So you get then to before B, 3 bars, and
Yep.
you've let the tempo do what the music wants, which is
Okay.
go. And then you have the boom and one. And now we need to subdivide, and we'll look at why we need to. Jum, bum, bum. Why do we need to subdivide on beats 3 and beats 4?
The
But not,
timpani.
yes, because the relationship, this is the key. Brahms has told us the eighth note is equivalent to the quarter note
Right.
because it's a
Because he's told us pretty,
sextuplet.
he's told us pretty clearly.
Yes, he's told us that the eighth note equals the quarter note. So if that's the case, you're doing your boom. And what does he do? He makes it unmeasured essentially here for us to go to the next beat and then 3 and 4 and because the timpani is unmeasured for the first two quarter notes and then suddenly measured.
At
Nothing
four.
happens. Nothing happens in the orchestra once you go to and 1, 2, 3. So it's a stasis moment where you don't need to really have a tempo, which allows you to break the previous accelerando tempo and
Yes.
cleanly reestablish and you get to the end of this whole thing. You can also the you can make a more of a little broad chorale out of it, but then you go
Sadly, we don't have to do that part. I'm so sorry we don't do the end.
but do you see the logic of the
Yes.
connection?
Yes.
And if you start from what is my tempo for, and I say it's in half notes because I'm firmly believing that the melody, many people do it very broadly in 4. Many people. And he doesn't say cut time. But if you think about the music is moving in half bars.
I've played this solo and you can't play it in quarter notes.
You know.
You can't really play da 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 da. You can't do it
Yeah,
because
they
you
take it to.
can't do that.
So if you then take the big tune,
Mhm.
it's clearly in half notes musically. Whether you conduct it as just take that as the pulse and go. Now take the same pulse. 1. And that's how you can organize this. And there's clear tempo relationships. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It's how I knew it, but I don't think I brought it all the way back to the beginning.
That's the problem. Most people don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Most
yeah.
people just kind of go, they just start. But it's like, but what is it?
Right.
Because we have what
Mm.
they're related. So that's my theory on
I like it.
the tempo relationships of these, of basically the 3 sections. There's the opening section. There's the kind of middle accelerando-y section. There's the big horn tune,
Yep.
okay, which then connects into the allegro. So it's
Right.
that chunk transitional, this chunk, a little bit of
Well, the
transition.
tempo relationship is also the same in the introduction to the main symphony too, in the very beginning.
Quarter, the eighth note becomes the dotted quarter.
Yeah.
It's the same relationship. I mean, that's why you choose the tempo of the introduction based on your tempo for the allegro.
Which is interesting because he's not having us go on, but I assume that will be, I was thinking all along that would probably be a question. How
Yes.
do you find the
How
of
do you find the
that?
tempo? And the way you do it is
I think if you have that in your mind, you don't even have to really measure it so much. If you have the right tempo, obviously you have to sort out what it's going to be.
right.
But I think it's such a natural, like as you would say, it's an organic.
Yeah. If you're thinking that the tempo, just whatever your tempo is gonna be, but boom. Da dim chum ti dum ba da da di da di da di da. Because he doesn't say adagio, he just says poco sostenuto, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So tell me, did you look at Nomus at all? No,
I didn't get to Nomus.
it's it's okay. Um, I was told by this fellow that is there now. He said, if I were you, I would have a session with somebody that was his assistant or something. Rotem Weinberg, do you know him?
No.
He's okay. He's okay, but he's very Ken. Ken has little things he does, and I said,
Yeah,
well,
I
I hope
I
if I
know.
end up getting accepted, I hope I can get rid of some of those because they're kind of cute, but I don't want to really be cute. But he said be very careful about following exactly the score. In other words, I mean, he wouldn't say much, but I took that to mean that you don't insert the fermatas, say the opening vivo, you don't insert the fermata like I was doing, like some conductors, yagadagadagadam, yagadagadagadam. I assume that that's not what you do, that you retard that third bar, yagadagadagadam, yagad, oh shit, yagadagadagadam. Is that enough warning?
That's an approach. I mean,
Well,
you,
so
you, you saw mine.
yes, but I saw you from the back.
Well, you can still see my arm.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, I think the way you want to be thinking about, I mean, I agree. I mean, I was, there are people that, where the fuck is it? There it is.
And you beat those. I had Paul said to me, don't beat those yumpum, but you beat them. And I think it's dangerous not to beat them. I think it's really dangerous not to do that. He said to go,
I, well, you just did duppa. You did beat it.
right. I divided. It was a fake subdivide.
Right.
It's the same thing,
It's
right?
the same thing.
What do you prefer? Because you actually go dum bum, which is what I normally do.
The reason I like that, look at the difference between this. If you have or whatever.
Right.
That's the next one. Sorry. So
That's
there's,
okay.
but if you do it this way, you go, where's my hand position?
Oh, ready to go to the next thing.
And
Yes.
as opposed to you see, I'm in the wrong place to
Right.
get and I'm up here already. Now, can it work? Of course it can work. Of course it can work. But it just is a little bit more definitive to me to go. I mean, can you also do it? You can also do it, I suppose, with a really good orchestra. You can do you just stop and then give So
A
I
really good orchestra doesn't really need you to play this. They just need you
they just
to,
need, yeah, I mean, a really good orchestra, you could just go pop and just
yeah.
stop. They're going to play. So, I mean, I'm dealing with a I'm dealing with a conservatory orchestra that,
But you've trained them. That's the
you know,
difference too. They're yours
yeah,
after a fashion.
yeah, no, it's my orchestra. Um, and that was the choice I made. Are there other choices? Of course. You
So in
know,
other words, nothing is particularly better visually than another, except for I do like the idea that that you end down ready to,
yeah.
that makes
I mean,
sense
the
to
reason
me.
I chose to do that in that way was that I went, I'm ready now to go, because I don't like being up here and then having to give another upbeat.
Right.
Even if you
I
did
think I think Paul was suggesting that you just push it down. Yeah, gonna get on bum. But that
but that's
is
two
that fake.
downbeats.
That's I know.
That's two bars.
I know.
And if you're
I
counting,
know. Right. Right. Yeah, I had trouble with that, but that's okay. I mean, I had trouble conceptually with that. I didn't like it. That's why I'm asking you. Um,
I mean, that's just, look, like I said, that made the most sense to me.
mhm.
Um, I do not in any way, shape, or form say that, it's my way or the highway. This is the only way to do it. There's a lot
Of
of
course
ways
not.
to do it, but I think you have to do, whatever you choose to do, there should be a logic behind what you're doing.
Right.
And for me, the logic was that I wanted to give very strongly boom bum, but I also did not want to be in a position away to be able to,
Then where do you go? Yeah.
then where do you go? Are you in the right position to go on? So my choice was because I wanted to make sure I was in the correct position for my hand to be
Right.
able to prepare what came next.
All right. That's
So
basically my questions about this, you know. That's it. And
yeah, I mean, it just kind of goes. I mean, it does its thing. I mean, like I said, you can see in that video, you can see enough. My hand, I'm out enough that you can see most of what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah.
Not 100% because you're not seeing it face on, but you can see the general gesture. So if that's of help, then you know, give it a give it another look.
Try. Yeah. Copeland. Couple of questions. We fixed this basically. And of course it's a bit better now because as soon as I do something, it's better now. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's
right.
already obsolete. I think what I'm mainly concerned about is I watched him conduct this with he did the full ballet chamber version.
Yeah,
And these sforzando pianos at 19, the da bim bom. You don't even need to get the score. I'm sure you know where it is. It's that whole section after yada di. Well, we started 1 2 ya da 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 ya da 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 all that stuff. And then
right.
di ya da yum. To me, it felt too hard. He gives a real whap there. And I didn't do hardly anything at all, but it feels more like an agogic accent than it feels like a hitch. So I'm not sure the right. Do you understand what I mean? It just feels like a more ba instead of ba. And then he's got them going ya da da da. And I'm like, well, I don't, that doesn't feel right to me.
I
I'm
mean,
asking your opinion. I mean, I may do it that way because I know that's what he does, but
I mean, I can see giving a strong downbeat at 19 because there's a sforzando piano on the downbeat.
right.
But what's going on after that is a much kind of it's a heavier, the accents, quite frankly, from that point on for me become more a heavy marcato.
It's more of an elegiac kind of Copland Symphony number
Yeah. So
three
I mean,
kind
if
of
you give,
vibe.
yum, dee da, it's connected. Dee da dee da da, boom, bum, dee da dee
And I
da.
guess that's what I have a hard time connecting with because he was saying that he felt like I was not, what did he call it? Viscosity, the air viscosity. So I guess that this was feeling I was not really, I know, don't laugh. You're gonna, he takes me, you're gonna have to bail me out off and on, you know that. Because some of the things he says, I'm kind of like, okay, I hear your words. But
But I mean, this at 19, this is another example of, feel it like a bow. Because you have dee da da dee da yum ta dee dee da da dee
yeah.
da dee. I mean, just like a bow, as opposed to dee da dee da. That
Okay, David. Point
this is
taken.
this is more physical.
Right.
Yeah. And you get the physicality of your arm, the weight of your arm, because if you think of it as a, yeah, but with even more, I mean, I get a little bit this kind of I would be with your wrist, I would be just even a little bit sharper when you make the click and sustain the arm for the quarter note a little bit more. Like it's more this, it's more I don't know if you can see what I'm doing.
It's like a little buzz on the bee bum
Yes,
bee
more that. And I'm
bum,
thinking, I'm
bum.
thinking, this is where you start. Heavy legato on dee da dee da. So you feel in your forearm, you feel the connections. Okay, don't move your wrist, just do it all forearm. Dee da dee da dee. Yeah, feel it. Okay. Now give a little click on the wrist without letting go of the forearm legato. Okay. So do it once with me. Just do this. Just do down to the side. So the right to the left, to the right, to the left. Just do that. Feel, don't move your wrist yet.
Sorry.
Move your forearm, feel it in your forearm, the connection, the resistance. Okay, not tension, the resistance. Now give a little click on each motion of the without stopping the arm.
That's so the click happens after the motion or click move.
No, no, no. The click is part of it. The click is simultaneous with the motion. Click, 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 click. Just don't let it whip.
Oh,
Click, 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 click. Something more like that. Now, do you feel how connected that is?
yeah, that was much better actually.
Yeah. And so then if you think, that's a way of getting the weight in the arm.
Yeah. And I have to be careful not to lock up my elbow
No, don't.
because then that'll get to the shoulders.
No, 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 no
So,
tension. This is the key. I don't know whether he uses this word the same way I use the word I'm about to use. There is resistance, but not tension.
yes, okay, I get it.
It's two different, very different things.
Of course.
And the resistance is what we feel as we're trying to pull. Mueller would talk about pull the line through. It's feeling like you're having to like pull. There's where the resistance comes. Okay, pull and push and pull and push, but I feel it right here, not up here. Forearm. Yeah, right below your elbow. There. Yes. Feel it in that muscle group. There. Pull and push and pull and push so that you're sensing that resistance without tension in the rest of the arm. And then all you do is just add a little bit of a click simultaneously with it to give the
I'm
emphasis
still
of the
whipping. I don't
accent.
know why I want to whip.
Yeah, don't whip.
I will practice
But
that.
practice it, because once you get the sense of
It's really an awareness. I have to find the awareness first here.
because what you want to feel is you want to feel that sense of resistance in the arm, forearm here, okay, in this chunk.
Yep.
Can't get my arm over here, like here.
Yep.
Okay. And that resistance is that
That's like
push.
a good, that's like you said in the Mercado in the bow. It's just that
It's like
digging
a
down.
bow, and I'm doing it as a string player. I'm doing it as if I would, because to give a small accent to the bow, you have to click the bow. So I'm
Right.
thinking of it as like there's my legato beat, and now I
I
want to
took
give
some violin.
accent, 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 accent.
I took violin, but I got very, very tense in here. So it seems it's just the same. I'm still not really isolating this forearm yet.
Yeah, and it's I actually it to me, I'm trying to me it's this muscle group right.
So inside, really, it's the on the inside
Yeah,
underside of
because
the arm.
here's my elbow. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's like right here, this group, including the top.
Yes.
So it's this muscle group. Okay. And if you can
Okay.
see, as I make it a little more, I'm trying to do it this way.
Yep.
I'm kind of off, but as I'm doing it, can you see that there's a slight, I'm also, you can feel the change. It's a little bit this. So I'm feeling it
Mm,
here, which is
okay.
like the top. If you put your arm straight with your palm down, okay, feel right along the top, just then go a little bit below the top. Come, no, I mean this way. Yeah, right there. That's where I feel it.
Oh, I got it.
It's this group.
Wow, it's small, David.
Yeah, it is.
Small. It's very much a string convention. It's very
It's
small. That's why I say I got so sore in my elbow when I would practice the
yeah.
violin because I
It's
wasn't really
it's a string thing. Yeah, I mean this to me is a very natural place because it's a bow.
right, exactly. Okay. I really have to find that because I could feel it moving. I could feel it tensing up, but then you have to make sure that this is not tensing up.
Resistance, not tension. And
Resistance.
think pull, push, pull, push, and this is the motion. This is the muscle group that's doing most of the work.
Okay.
Pull, push, but from here.
From here.
Yeah.
We talked about these levers when we first met, and I didn't have to. You said you don't have to worry about this one for a while. I remember because it's hard.
It's hard.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. After all that mess, one small question.
Yeah.
Oh, I find that I'm going through all the excerpts that he has of this piece, and there's a little small bugaboos. This nice kind of knee slapping rodeo section. I always want to give this kind of a Bernstein ass version. I always kind of want the but it's somehow I am heavy sometimes and it slows it down. So if I'm going cha 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 maybe I should just use cha, and rather than using my whole arm, yum chagadim chagadim bum 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 chagadim bum 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 bum. No, I don't want it because they tend to go yan tigadun, and the players do too. Yan da 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 da.
Yeah, it's the cha cha boo cha cha cha
Yes.
tagadum tagadum bum 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 tagadum bum 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 bum. One of the things that I noticed you're doing is you're stopping on the three
Mm,
instead of doing it this way. Chakadum tagadum bum 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 chakadum tagadum bum 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 bum. So you think a little bit round and round and.
ding tigadum tigadum bum 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 tigadum bum 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 bum.
But you have to make sure that the difference between 1, 2 is this is sharp up and down. Okay. And then the three is rounder. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So there's a difference because it's all in two.
I know.
But the 2, 4 is much more
It's
up, down.
ah yan to inta da 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 da. Yes.
So if you're doing
One,
it
two, one,
1, 2,
one,
and
one.
one, let me do it once for you. Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 1 is rounder with a sharp 2 on top, and the roundness gets the 3. So it's sharp, sharp, round, sharp, 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 round, sharp, 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 round, sharp.
It seemed like you started a little rounded for the first one.
Maybe.
Yeah, go on. Da 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 da
One,
da.
two,
So yeah, da da dee da 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 da. Downbeat.
1, 2. Ba-bum.
You just start the new tempo right away. You don't fuck around. I'm complicating it.
Yeah. 1, 2.
Yum da dee yada. Yep. Okay.
Just go right on.
Same thing, same thing. That's easy. Why did I have trouble with that before?
Yeah. So just
And then the last
1, 2. Yeah.
just straight on. Now
Yep.
this last business, I assume that these threes I'm going to have to work on again because this last excerpt or next to last, yeah, dee da 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 da, yeah, da 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 da, all that stuff, da da dee dee da da dee da 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 dee da 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 dum bum ba 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 bum ba 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 bum bum ba yeah da da dum bum ba yeah da da dum ba da 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 dum ba 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 bum. Is that wrong? I think it's okay. Yeah da da dee da dee yeah da
If
da
you do it,
438.
if you do it
1
from
2 1 2 dee da 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 ya da da 1 2 da ya da 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 ya da 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 dum bum bum. Oh shit.
so think of it this way. You have the at 49. Okay, so go into 4, third bar of
Where?
30.
Yes, I have it. The 4 4
Okay.
the where it says 4 4.
Yeah, right.
1 2 3. Yes, that's what I
Yeah. Well,
did.
some people stay in 2 and then go into it doesn't work. So you
No.
have ba pipa pipa tipa pipo da da tipa pipo ba ba tipa pipa tipa pipa tipa pipa ba tipa ba 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 2
Yes.
3 oh pipa pipa.
So dum bum 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 50 2 3 da 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 da.
Yeah.
mm.
So
Yes.
so like if you take
I
the
have
three
the
bars,
4/4 starting on the second beat of 51. That's what you had said before. No, I'm sorry. One. Yeah. No, right on that bar, right? Dot 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 dum bum
yeah, I mean
bum.
everyone always does one, da, dee, da, 1, 2, 3, beep, pa, pa, pom, pom. They already start the ritornando, which is not what he says. So you have da,
Yes.
ba, beep, pa, 1, 2, 3, beep, pa, beep, pom, 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 dee, pa, beep, pom, pom, dee, pom, two, oh.
Yes.
Da,
So
da,
you don't,
da.
I had actually a stop. I had dot da dot da dum bum 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 bum, but that's not where you want it. Just straight on. Bum 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 bum
Yeah, I think it's safer.
bum.
Yeah, I think it's safer because if you don't give like 1, 2, 3, it's very light 2 and 3. But if you just do
Yes.
stop, beep up beep,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
1, 2, 3, beep up beep up. So just 1, 2, 3, beep up beep up.
And you double your one, right? So that you stay in four. Da 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 dum bum bum
Yeah,
dee da da dum bum. Okay. That was my question. Those are all my questions.
I mean
And then he has you doing
that's
hmm?
for me kind of the double 1 in the 5. That's kind of a personal thing, but it makes sense to
It's
me.
so clear. It's so clear. That's what's so great about it. That's when you put this together for me for the spring, that's what I did. And nobody had trouble with it. They
No,
did
they
have
won't.
trouble with this other thing that we did that you said to just go straight on.
Which
That's it. And they just have the chorale. I don't know what he wants to know about the chorale.
at the end,
I have no idea. But
I don't know.
and then there's Mozart, but we don't have to talk about Mozart. I think it's fine. If you want to, you can.
39 or Paris. Is it Paris?
That's the one I have. Yeah.
D major?
Yeah.
Okay.
G major or D major. Yeah. Right. I'm doing the second movement.
Second movement.
Mm-hmm.
In 6, in 2, in some variety of it.
Yeah. I did this yum pum 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 yum padum padum no, yes, maybe.
Can work. I would think more that you might want to keep a little bit more clear 1, 4.
Say
In other
that
words, say
again.
1 and 4. So
Mm-hmm.
you have the
Oh, you know what?
um
I'm actually doing more Italian 6. I'm sorry.
I'm not a fan, but that's okay.
Well, it's funny because I started out with all German 6 and everything, and I was told not to do German 6 in the Brahms, that opening thing. What do you do that in? I know, I know, I know.
I use a German 6 exclusively. It is the cleanest, clearest 6 pattern, and there's no
That's
reason
why
not
I
to.
should be studying with you. I
No,
thought it
and
was
opening the
odd.
Brahms, in the opening of the Brahms, why would you do? Why
I know.
would you do that instead of
You don't have to sell me. You don't have to sell me. I'm already on your side.
I
But
mean,
I was told that he hates the German 6.
Ken
How can
hates
you
the
hate a
German
pattern?
6. He hates a German 6.
You gotta love all of them. You might need them. That's
I
my
would
theory.
like my friend Mark hand in his breathing. I will violently disagree with there's any reason why not to use a German
Well,
six
isn't it nice
consistently.
that I'm not gullible so that if I do go, I won't have to be
Well,
swallowing everything everybody gives me and believe it is the gospel truth.
yeah, I mean, you're just in any case,
So, I mean, so you know who I love? I love Harnoncourt doing this because it's so simple. It's fussy, yes. So your basic orchestral conductor is going to hate it, but it's very historic performance type based. And of course, I had to take that when I did my master's in organ. I had to take this historic performance base, and it's so elegant the way he does it. Sometimes it just feels too heavy in other ways, but so
yeah. I mean, I would just yeah, yum bum bum bum. You could even do it almost in a kind of a weird subdivided two.
yeah, I was looking at you thinking that's what I was kind of
Or
perceiving it
like
as. And really it's into, isn't it? It's really it's
yum
into.
bum bum bum.
It's certainly not in six.
And the shape of it kind of moves, and you have the light pulse of the eighth note because it's a little too slow and you want to have contact, but just say like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bum bum bum, etc.
All right.
I wouldn't object to it in kind of a subdivided two, as opposed to actually going into six in some variety. Because the music, again, here it is. What is the music?
It's into. It, well, it's funny because this symphony he didn't write a minuet
right?
movement, but he did. He still did.
Yeah,
I mean, this is what this is. It's in three. It's in
yeah,
two. It's in the
yeah.
phrases. Yeah. All right.
But it's very, very
Well, I
clear the phrasing is more dotted
oh
chord
yeah.
phrase phrasing.
Oh yeah.
And if you get it established, then there are going to be moments where you can just give 1, 2, and then you can shape phrases.
Or I can stop and go ya da da da.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
All
then
right.
there's all sorts of things that open up when you get away from.
Conductor lady. David, it's always a pleasure.
Likewise. All
So
right.
good to see you.
Good to see you. Good luck. If you have any
Thank
other
you so
questions,
much. As
sure.
you're just such a wonderfully you have such clarity. I said I said to Noel, I said, it's people develop according to the people that they're able to intersect with, so that you could take a very talented student and give them bad instruction and
Yeah.
they'll never grow to whatever that potential is. So that's been the tough thing for me, being my age and not being able to take advantage of the best that I should be able to deserve. So
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. This may not be the be all end all, but it will at least open up some avenues where I might be able to get some opportunities to go
Yeah.
beyond that. So, I
Yep.
mean, at least
Yep.
growth wise. I
Yep.
never think of
Absolutely.
anything in terms of career wise. I never did as a singer either. You have to think, how much can I do as an artist personally
Yeah.
to open myself up, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So
So
if you have
thank
any
you. I love
questions in the
you.
meantime,
And what do
good
I owe
luck.
you? Can I Venmo you or?
It's fine.
All right.
Buy me a
Thank
beer
you.
sometime.
What's that?
Buy me a beer sometime when we see each other in person.
Well, I mean, Paulo said to me one time, last year he goes, I wish I could take you. I just gave away my last free whatever. So maybe one day I'll be hanging out in Italy with you. That'll be fun. I'll buy you dinner.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. If
Thank
you
you
have any
so much.
questions, send up a flare.
I will do. I will.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.